Shalom Akim, Kahalayim La, Yahweh Bashim Yahshua Bashim Hakudash, and double honors to greatest apostles. Thadi Yahshua for the strength in order to make this video. And narratives are, you find it edifying and exhorting. So I'm just get straight into it, man. I'm not trying to make this too long. But yeah, I came across this video. How come you know me? That I have a fondness for a liking for pigeons. Over here in the UK, just be feeding them, the ones that are close by the flat. And yeah, man, because there's things that we can learn. Especially Esau and flipping lower level Edomites, of whom don't really have a bath. Especially in these times of a heat wave, man, with all the sweating we ought to wash ourselves, man, or else you could get itchy because of all the people that you've interacted with, especially when traveling on a train, traveling on a bus. I remember yesterday it was boiling. It was more so boiling in the bus than it was on the outside, because on the outside, at least through the spirit of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, we had some breeze, man. But anyways, Yaratazar, and then play this video and get some precepts, man. But yeah, that's the thing about really, I saw this, and of course, I started to think about where I should do a video on it, and I realized, Esau don't really be taking baths, man. That's why certain Edomites, when you walk past them, they have a certain unpleasant body odor, when you go past them. Now, of course, there's many factors, but I ain't trying to defend Esau right now, man, because if you know, whether it be in the workplace or you're just walking by one, even in the winter, winter where you don't really sweat as much, they still be they have that unpleasant smelly odor, man. But yeah, let me play this. Salaki, I've been talking. You see how they're washing themselves. Esau flipping trying to accuse pigeons of dark cloud pigeon food. If you go near pigeon, you don't catch the pigeon food. This is like, I don't know, a decade ago or something. I was younger, so I wasn't really as inclined to learn about this stuff and think about Esau and the manipulation because young man, you're in the folly, you don't really care about certain things that you ought to care about in this life. But then when you grow wisdom, you look at this thing, trying to get that water under the armpit, clean up the body. I believe even owls as well, I might call this one and try and look for the video there. Even owls as well, they take a bath too, they clean their feathers up. But yeah, man, you should learn a lot. Man, a whole load. I can't make this really much music. I don't know if that's a dove or it could be just an albino pigeon. But yeah, man, they wash themselves, man. And get that water in, they cleanse themselves as well. Yeah, man, you should go let me get some presets and I might go back to this. This is Job 12 and verse 7. But ask now the beasts, and they shall teach thee, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee. You see? It says, or speak to the earth, and it shall teach thee, and the fishes of the sea, and of the sea shall declare unto thee. Who knoweth not in all these that the hand of the Lord Yahweh hath wrought this? It's all through the power of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, that all these things are present. And the NLT says, just ask the animals, they will teach you. Ask the birds of the sky, and they will tell you. Speak to the earth, and it will instruct you. Let the fish in the sea speak to you, for they all know that my disaster has come from the hand of the Lord. It's true. All is ordained by the will of Yahweh ultimately. So through the power of Yahweh Shem Yahshua, Nothing really on earth is sealed unless it's sealed in heaven. So, anyways, the key part really was in verse 7 in the NLT again. It says, ask the birds of the sky and they will tell you. Pigeons, people think that they're dumb, small head, size of their brain be small, but just because their brain is small don't mean they can't reason. I remember there was a time where I don't know if it was 2 years ago, probably 2 years ago, specific pigeon, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, I don't know, but some years ago. There's a specific pigeon that I was observing as I was feeding them. You can tell the difference between them, from just obviously from their size, their look, and also the eyes as well. Each pigeon is unique. And, the pigeon had a wife. Okay. Arkin, you've heard me say this story, know what's up already. But, the pigeon had a wife, another female pigeon. And long story short, that the wife died. That when the wife died, it was early morning, like, I don't know, 4 a.m., 3 a.m., 5 a.m. maybe. But around that time, that pigeon was mourning, man. That pigeon was mourning. Of course, the sounds are... I was wondering, it don't normally make these sounds because normally there's certain sounds they make in order to request food, or there's a way that you can communicate with animals, in it, but it takes time to observe them and to see certain behaviors before you're able to understand them more. But yeah, with the pigeons, that why is he making all this sound this early morning? Lo and behold, the wife pigeon got stuck on under the balcony, but I had no idea. One of them rails on the balcony probably flew too fast or something for the storm. I don't know, but I'm trying to put two and two together. But yeah, the wife pigeon died, and then that was probably torture for the flipping pigeon, man. The male pigeon, he mourned his wife. He mourned his wife because he wouldn't normally make that sound in the morning, though. He wouldn't make that sound in the morning. So it's more so like a cry, even though it was and of course, as I said, absurd times in the morning, man. Absurd times, so it wasn't a usual thing. So yeah, they have feelings, they perceive things. You gotta treat these animals with respect as well. The Most High sees everything, man. The Most High sees everything. So yeah, they got their wisdom, man. So it says, and the fowls of the air, and they shall tell thee. Just gotta observe them, man. They see these things. Of course, the fowls of the air, they fly to all sorts of places, so you don't even know. Through a pigeon, a miracle may even happen as well. Don't put that out on the side, man. Through a pigeon, miracles could happen. Don't be surprised if a pigeon literally talks to you in English or whatever language. Because remember, we're living in the times of miracles as well, man. And it's the final go around. It's the final kingdom before it's like, okay, the final heathen kingdom, which is the Edomite kingdom, Babylon the Great, prior to, which is Rome revived pretty much, prior to Yahushua's kingdom, which is going to be the final kingdom. So of course there's going to be miracles that are going to be, there's going to be higher level miracles that have not been seen before. And Yahushua's kingdom come, when you have that second book of Acts, or a new book being written of the scriptures, there's going to be those great works, the greatest works, prior to the downfall or during the downfall of Babylon would then be written. So yeah, don't be surprised with that. What was I going to say? All right, pertaining to Esau now. Let's see. Hold on. Alright, let me start from verse 5. It says, Job 30:5, they were driven forth from among men. They cried after them as after a thief, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. Esau always talks about the origin of people starting from flipping cavemen, Neanderthals and all that. That's your origin. That's not our origin. That's not the origin of Israelites. You know, in fact, Yaratazar, you know, at some point, I'm gonna need to do some study and research on it as well, so I can get a deeper lesson in terms of the history of how they were living as well. You know, in certain periods of time, like the Middle Ages and whatnot. But yeah, anyway, so it says to dwell in the cliffs of the rocks, to dwell in the cliffs of the valleys, in the caves of the earth, and in the rocks. So they were the real cavemen. Among the bushes they brayed under, and the nettles they were gathered together. They were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. So of course, there's a reason why certain Edomites, especially the lower level ones, you know, they seem to have this rough and how can I describe? I'm trying to look for some words here. But in what really is the scripture say? Base men, you know, lower level understanding. You know, as it says in the NLT in verse 7, it says they sound like animals howling among the bushes, huddled together beneath the nettles. And you know how they be charting, especially right now during the football World Cup. You know, always charting in the pubs. You know, sometimes not even just the football World Cup as well, but in, you know, Premier League and whatnot. You know, they be shouting a lot, man. I remember just walking sometimes, and then you hear them charting, and you have police following after them to make sure they don't go crazy, to make sure the demons in them don't come out too much. But yeah, it says, yeah, they were children of fools, yea, children of base men. They were viler than the earth. So yeah, some of them don't even take a bath as often, man. Something as simple as taking a bath, man, which I was getting to this video, they don't even take seriously. As you can see, the pigeons over there, they're taking that bath, man. They're changing themselves. I believe in owls as well. Owls, they watch themselves too, you know, to get the parasites off of them as well. You know, so even the flipping fowls, they'll tell you that, yeah, cleansing your body is good, man. And they can reason, man. They can reason. They're smarter than you think. Like I gave that little pigeon testimony. So yeah, they're foolishing. They're foolishing. They're foolishing. I don't know, another sign as well, man. Animals are also constantly with you, man. Like acting nervous too. Certain dogs coming around doing things. It's a good sign. It's a good sign because it means that they're comfortable with your spirit as well. Yeah. You know, they may call them, you know, wild pigeons, but they ain't as wild as Esau. And they're not dumb as Esau as well. And look at them, you know, raising the feather, let's get some water under the armpit. You know, because, you know, they need to get some water in there just to cleanse that part, because that part is always covered. And kind of like the way we always have our you know, just beside our legs. So, the thing is, that's the thing, man. When you just observe animals, there's a lot that you can learn. There's certain ones that you know about to see. Squirrels, foxes, pigeons, some of them maybe something like the oncoming too. But yeah. Trying to see if there's any other point that's totally lit. That's the cute thing, looking at it. But yeah, man, you know, just from observing them, there's a lot that you can learn from. And animals know, they can sense whether, you know, there's some nonsense like you're feeding them, or, you know, the water's corrupted or whatnot. So, they can reason. But anyways, I'll leave that. Nothing really coming to me right now, so that's the point. So, Shalom.